Hello and welcome to episode 319 of the Total Saints podcast. It's your home for all things Southampton Football Club. A huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community because we couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. So coming up this week on the podcast, another stoppage time goal. This week it cost us a point at home to Fulham. There's plenty to discuss after the 2-1 defeat. And with 4 to go, it's the big one next, the one we've all been waiting for. It's Leicester away. So we're going to preview that game for you as well. My name is Martin Starke, and joining me this week, Steve Grant is the owner of Saints Web. Glen is writer of the blog League 1-10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter for the Daily Echo. So let's start with the Fulham game and what might have been. Alfie, we played okay for the first, 75 minutes? And then to me, it seemed like we just kind of ran out of steam. But to be leading at half-time was a huge step forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you heard the comments from Fulham boss Marco Silva after the match, but he came in before Simon Rusk. Yeah, I mean, he came in incredibly strong.
Hey, what you think, Steve?
Yeah, the first thing he said was, if any club deserved to win today, it was Fulham because we were the only team that tried to score goals from the first minute to the last, and we dominated and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, it's quite strong, but I thought the first half was really good from Southampton. Yeah, exactly. The first half was really good. Jack Stevens headed in front about 15 minutes in, but that wasn't their first chance. They had a couple sort of combination plays with Ryan Manning down the left, but the ball's just got put into the keeper's hands and things like that. And I thought they did well for the first half. I could see that they started to drop a little bit deeper and deeper as the half went on, and that sort of last 5 minutes of the first period was all Fulham pretty much. And they needed to come out with. They needed to come out on the front foot, be proactive, be a bit more aggressive. And Ross Stewart obviously played up front, and he played 65 minutes in the end. And he looked rusty. He looked like he hadn't played in a few years, but he did sort of match the game plan. If Paul Amo-Ameyaw wasn't available through injury, so Simon Russ did the obvious thing. He put Ross Stewart in, the only other person who can head the ball, who can hold a player off. So it was the same game plan that we've had in the last couple of games, and it looked like they were familiar with it. They knew what was going on. Carl Walker-Peters was a real threat all the way through that first half. Then in the second half, it did become a case of they protect this 1-0 lead. They sat on it, and they didn't really get going at all. And I think by the end of the game, the stats were really sort of heavily in Fulham's favour. But it took them 72 minutes obviously to score the first goal. And again, it's a substitute. Aston Villa game, we spoke about that. 3 substitutes scored the first time in Premier League history. This time, Emma Smith-Rowe comes on. I think it's one of his first touches. It's a deflected goal, but he scores. And then deep into added time, Adama Traore, also a substitute, sets up the winner for them. And, it's a case of every time Saints make a sub, they get worse. Every time the opposition brings someone on, they bring on a Premier League match winner. I just felt that maybe that mentality wasn't exactly right, but I can understand why they felt they had to sit back and sort of protect what they had. But I think it probably ended up costing them.
So what was Marco Silva on about then, Steve? Because it wasn't like he didn't say like the last 50 minutes. He said from the first minute until the last. The reality is that we were the only team trying to score goals, and that's not fair and wrong, as you say.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean he's just incorrect. I mean Fulham didn't have a shot on target until that equaliser, which was 73 minutes, I think. Not a single shot on target in the whole of the first half. We kind of kept them at arm's length, really, apart from couple of I mean Jimenez's volley. I think right at the end of the first half, he probably should do better. But other than that, we've not really been looked in too much danger. We defended in numbers and we defended in the right areas. We knew exactly how we wanted to get Fulham to play. And that was exactly how they did. I mean, we knew that they were going to be sort of happy to play in wide areas, but we managed to double up where necessary. I mean, obviously they were obviously quite heavy down their left, which is interesting because you would think that that's probably our slightly stronger side from a defensive perspective. But with Sessegnon overlapping on his left foot and Willian looking to cut in on his right all the time, you obviously you kind of cover both bases as an attacking side where you've got someone who can go on the outside and someone else who can whip things in. But I thought we stood up to it pretty well, to be honest. I mean, as I say, not shot on target until less than 20 minutes to go. And yeah, I mean, frankly, Marco Silva with his bizarre chip on his shoulder. I mean, yeah, well done, mate. It's taken you 190 minutes, 200 minutes to finally take the lead against the worst team in the division over the course of this season. Have a standing ovation, my friend. Well done. But it does show I mean, we're partly responsible for this situation, whereby promoted teams come up and none of us have got any squad depth at all. You look at Ipswich; anybody they bring off the bench, there's not really anybody who is a game changer, really, apart from sort of recent weeks where they've been not quite sure what's going on there, but Liam Delap's been warming the bench and coming off the bench for 20-25 minutes or so. But Leicester have got no game changers really off the bench either. Although obviously come back to me in a week's time when someone's come on and scored a hat-trick against us. But yeah, this all dates back to COVID, where obviously we had that project restart, and there was the rule that they brought in as a temporary measure whereby teams could make 5 subs because you were playing through the middle of the summer and it was 35 degrees outside. Everyone said, well, yeah, okay, that's absolutely reasonable. Nobody's had a pre-season. We're just straight into this run of 10 games where nobody's really quite sure how this is all going to work. So absolutely fair enough. But then everybody then decided, well, basically the big 6 decided, yeah, this actually suits us because we're the teams with the depth.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Actually, yeah, we should keep this going forward. This is really nice for us. And unfortunately, all of the smaller clubs in the Premier League said, yes, I agree with you there, Manchester City. We're gonna let you have your 9 named substitutes where you can bring any 5 of them on at any time to rescue a game against weaker opposition. And I mean, we're now in the situation where basically 17 teams have depth because they're now, all of them are at least 3 years consecutively in the Premier League. They've got that stability. They've got the financial backing. Many of them have got owners who are able to invest in infrastructure and things like that. That actually means that it doesn't fall on kind of the club's own coffers, if you like, to generate the funds to build new training grounds and things like this. And yeah, so we voted for this. So we are kind of responsible for what Fulham did to us in that last 20-25 minutes or so. So yeah, well done to everybody. Slow hand clap for destroying any competitive balance in the Premier League. Well done.
Pats on the back all round. Glenn, let's talk about our chances and the goal as well. Jack Stevens obviously heading in that Ryan Manning free kick, which was a great start. But then we could have had, I think as Alfie was saying, we had plenty of chances to extend the lead too. We could have had a penalty, and obviously Kyle Walker-Peters was playing out of his skin.
There was some good stuff going forward in that first half. I said last week we look uniformly not dangerous at free kicks, and it just happens that the following week Ryan Manning gets the delivery right, and it's a good header by Stevens. And what occurred to me when that went in is that was virtually undefendable. There was just no, because of the sort of like whip on the cross and the way Stevens made the run across the front defender. And Bernd Leno didn't even move, did he? He just sort of like, well, that's gone. And it just shows how important free kicks and deliveries into the box for corners and stuff like that really are. So when you score a goal, and on the face of it, that was very, very simple, but so effective, and that's why teams need to. I mean, a lot of teams do, obviously, but we haven't done this season. Is to pay more attention to deliveries into the box from set pieces. I mean, we took it for granted for years with Ward-Prowse that we had someone who was going to put it in the right place, but we've had Fernandez having a go with mixed success. We've had Smallbone having a go with little success, Manning with little success until yesterday. So, it's definitely something to look for going into next season. So that
I'll
was
say
a nice
something
goal.
for you about that, Glenn, if you like, before you move on to anything else about the set pieces specifically. Look, I don't know if it's fault, but the set piece consultant the club have been working with, he left during the last week. So I don't know who's taking over.
Is this the guy with no name that was waiting for a work permit?
Yeah. I don't know who it was, but they They left.
Missed the announcement there, didn't we? They didn't announce that. Didn't put a full page on the website or whatever. But
whoever's taken over has already got a better record.
Yeah, it's probably no one.
There's a theme, isn't
It's probably Rasmus Ankerson. But yeah, I mean, the other chances we had in the first half. I mean, there was I think the penalty incident you're talking about was the Ross Stewart one, which was never a penalty in a million years. But he got put through, and he was sort of like one against one with Calvin Bassey, who is a big unit, and I think in that moment you saw that A, Ross Stewart is rusty, and B, he's not played at Premier League level before. That's the other thing, and the standard of defending is obviously a lot better.
You got a much stronger shoulder, haven't you, in that situation?
Yeah, the door closed really. I mean, Stewart needed to get the first nudge in and, try and throw Bassey off balance, but he didn't do it. And from that moment on, it was, it was like being swatted away like a little child. It was like, get out of here. And no, it was never a penalty. But I mean, I thought Ross Stewart was actually quite promising. Dare I say it? I thought, it's nice for him to, get the 65 minutes in and obviously walk off the pitch instead of being carried off. And I mean, I thought there was, there was something in that. But it shone a light on our recruitment. I mean, Ruska's established what his best 11 is. And with Amo-Ameyaw injured, we've got to bring in the player who hasn't played for 2.5 years because of all the forwards that we're going to rely on this season, namely Archer, Armstrong, Brereton, Diaz. They're all either terrible or not here anymore, or both. So there you go. I thought Stewart did okay, but overall attacking wise, I thought we were okay. Marco Silva's got his chip on his shoulder, obviously from the previous game where we defended.
That's what it is. Do you think it's
yeah, I think it would.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Because he got a lot of stick. He got a lot of stick about that because he didn't. They accused him of not taking the game seriously and all that sort of stuff. So
they made
he obviously
changes for it, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean,
but then half that team that he picked are now in their starting 11. So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, but he's obviously an arrogant little so and so. And
but they were properly booed off at half time from that away.
They were. Yeah, they were.
That was loud. It was like Jesus. Yeah. I've genuinely not heard a Fulham away support that loud.
It's
in any sense at St Mary's before, but that boo at half time was quite something. I thought
it's entitlement, isn't it? We get it with Brighton when they drew with us. It was the same thing, and they expect
hopefully next week as well.
They've been rubbish. They've been rubbish for years, and then suddenly they're half decent, and they're expecting to win all the time. So, yeah, that's entitlement. But yeah, we did create chances, but as you say, the second half, 10 yards backwards, and once I think Archer had one little dart, didn't he, where he hit the outside of the post with a cross.
Yeah. And Walker Peters made a save as well.
Walker
from Leno.
Yeah, Walker Peters one shot where it sort of bounced to him on his left foot in the penalty area. It's a good save that. Though it was a bit one for the cameras. He wasn't shouldn't have been as spectacular as he made it look.
What do you think, Glen, of the incident in the first half where Kamaldeen Sulemana is quite clearly barged in the box, but he elected to stay on his feet, had a shot, and saved him? I believe that should have been given. Really, if he'd gone down, it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, Kamaldeen makes the wrong decision every time, doesn't he? He makes the wrong decision every time. And that's just unfortunate. I'm not being funny here. I'm not trying to be funny here. He makes the wrong decision all the time. He should have gone down then. And he makes the wrong decision every time he gets in an area where he can cross the ball or shoot or pass it. I'm struggling to remember a player with less end product, less doing the right thing at the right time. And, talks about
all of the attributes that you would want from a player in his position.
Absolutely. And I've seen people talking about, is he going to stay next year? And it's funny. Even in the championship, I think he'd be the same. I just don't think at the end of the day.
Last season, didn't we? He had like 2 good games, I reckon. Millwall away and maybe one other.
But yeah, you're right. I had forgotten that incident, Alfie. And I was thinking go down, but of course once he stays on his feet, then it's never going to get given. But there you go. But in the second half, we maintained no goal threat. And when you do that, and we discussed it before, the other team can do what they like with no fear of consequence because there's nothing going on at the other end of the pitch, and they can throw players in the box, and that's how they got back into the game and eventually won it.
And that's not about. I was just thinking about what we said about the substitutes, because a lot of people were saying, that felt inevitable, that they were obviously going to get the winner, and I think most people in the ground could probably see that coming. But I think we've established the last couple of games that that's not necessarily to do with their mentality and the fact that they just collapse like a deck of cards. It is down to the substitutes and not having the people. And I think Alfie made the point, might have been in the paper today, about Emil Smith-Rowe. He would be our best player if he was in the starting lineup, and they're just bringing him on.
Absolutely miles.
They're just bringing him on, aren't they? With 15 minutes or whatever to go. But it just felt like it was coming, Alfie, didn't it? We all knew that they were going to get that goal.
I think we ended the game with 6 at the back, right? So they brought James Bree on for who did he come on for? Maybe Matty Fernandez.
Yeah.
Fernandez was done. He couldn't move at that point. So I didn't really have any issue with that substitution kind of in isolation. What we ended up doing was Walker Peters ended up being pushed into midfield at that point. And Bree
which in fact he can do.
Which ordinarily would be fine, but actually, I think given the way that Fulham were attacking us, and they were still quite happy to continue to try and get in round the back of our wing backs. Actually, what we should have done was just say, well, okay, we'll play a flat back 6 then. We'll play Walker Peters outside Bree, and you effectively have 4 centre backs, but the widest centre backs then kind of play the width of the penalty area, and you've then got the wing back who is like another 5 or 10 yards further out. So then there's actually less space for them to cross the ball, and you then close down that space, and all of a sudden those balls into the box that suddenly became really dangerous. Half of them don't even reach the penalty area. So that was just one. That was probably the one little tactical thing that I thought might have made a difference. I mean, it might not have made any difference at all, but that just kind of felt to me like if we are just going to sit in and just try and defend the Alamo here,
which we're not very good at, are we?
Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, you, as a defending team, if you put bodies in the way, as we saw for the vast majority of that game, they didn't get shot on target. If you put bodies in the way, there's nowhere for them to hit the ball. So if you stop the crosses coming into the box, unless somebody's pinging one into the top corner from 30 yards, you're okay, I think.
I just think having played for 88 minutes with the same defensive unit, that back 5 and Les and Flynn in front of them, it's in the complete opposite to what Rasmus Ankersen said. It ain't broke. Don't mess around with it. So you mess around with it, and whatever we were doing on the right-hand side, who scored the winning goal? The left wing back. So we've disrupted it for whatever reason. If you're going to bring a player on, just do a like-for-like replacement with Matty Fernandez and leave everything else alone. How have we not learned that if we mess around with things, it goes wrong? Because we just don't have the players. You're bringing on James Bree, who weakens any team anyway in the entire Premier League and probably the Championship. And you're bringing him on and saying, no, to be fair to him, you're saying get up to speed straight away in this Alamo defending effort that we're doing right now, and you go and play there and play against whoever was on the pitch at the time, Sessegnon and whoever the left winger was, because Willian had gone off. But it's just madness. Don't change it. Why change it if we've learnt nothing this season? I think Ruska's got a lot of things right. He's, Les and Flynn played the whole 95 minutes again. So he's obviously sussed that one out. But it was just that he couldn't resist making that one substitution on 88 minutes. And I'm saying this with the benefit of hindsight, but I was rolling my eyes in my head as soon as I saw the number come up and the substitution being made. And then you see the players all kind of looking at each other, well, who's going where? And you just think, oh, here we go. And it's the left wing back who scores. And I mean, I don't know who's left him. I don't know who's not tracked him, but it's someone from the right hand side, isn't it?
I think it's sort of to the point that that Martin made as well. Like before that goal, there were a couple of big chances. I think Smith-Rowe had a chance saved by Ramsdale. I think Raul Jimenez had a really easy header that just went straight into the Ramsdale's hands, sort of just before the change was made as well. But if you look at the rest of the unused subs, you're going to bring on Joe Aribo for Matty Fernandes. Maybe he's probably the best option. Other than that, it's Will Smallbone, Nathan Wood, Wellington, and Jay Robinson is obviously 18 years old, never played a game. So he's not exactly inundated with options there. But that's the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I just wonder about positives to finish on. Ross Stewart, let's have a quick chat about him, Steve. As we said earlier, first start at home. There's a fair chance that he might be one of the main strikers for next season. It's probably a bit early to think about that now. But how did he do for you slotting into that system? Have you seen enough to think that there might be something there for next year?
Difficult to tell because we didn't get him a huge amount of service. And when we did get him the service, there was generally nobody within 20 yards of him to kind of link up with. So it was difficult for him. And he's up against seasoned top flight defenders. I mean, Joachim Andersen is a very good Premier League defender. Calvin Bassey, slightly less so, but he's got physical attributes that mean that, okay, Anderson's the guy you don't want to go up against aerially, but you then don't want to go up against Bassey in a ground sort of sprint, which is ultimately what Stewart ended up having to do with that opportunity he had in the first half. So I mean, I think we've seen on the sort of cameo appearances that he's had. I mean, if you think West Brom away in that playoff semi-final when he nearly scored,
how different would things be? Not that different.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's only played.
I've forgotten about that.
He's only played like 20, 25 minutes. But he made a huge difference in that second half of that game. Because we were on the back foot for large spells of that, and him coming on gave us just a slightly different dynamic up front, I think. And so, excuse me, certainly in the Championship, I think there will be, assuming he can stay fit, and this is ultimately still the question mark. Can he stay fit enough to put a run of 7, 8, 9 games together where he can play, where he can start those games, and we can build a system that works to his advantage? Because there's no point in playing. I don't think there's any point in trying to play the way we're playing now. I mean, obviously, we're not going to play that way in the Championship. I mean, I'd be horrified if we did. But we're going to be dominating the ball a lot more next season. So actually, him alongside somebody else up front. Maybe that's the way we'll go. And I mean, at the end of the day, he's already on the books. So it may well be a case that sort of
no one's going to buy him either.
Investment priorities are going to go elsewhere, because if we've got these attackers that are going to score enough goals in the Championship, okay, fine. We've got loads of other gaps that we're likely to have to fill in the summer. So I mean, maybe if Stewart can show something over the next handful of games, depending on Onuachu's fitness and all that, then yeah, maybe he presents himself as not even just an option, but maybe even kind of the starting option and someone you build your attack around. But I mean, it's going to be very difficult to judge that against Premier League defences. I mean, next week is actually probably the best opportunity. Because you are playing against another Championship team, in effect.
The first pre-season friendly.
Yeah. But the remaining games after that, you play Manchester City, Arsenal, and David Moyes' Everton. So they're three strong sides. So I don't think you'll necessarily see anything that kind of stands out in those games. But a game against a side who frankly are, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who have seen Leicester recently and have seen us recently, and they will swear till they're blue in the face that we are better than Leicester.
All right. Well, we will get onto that in just a moment.
So it's a game next week where Stewart should be looking at that and thinking, right, this is a defence that I've got to be able to prove myself against.
Okay. Anything else on? We'll do Player of the Week in a minute. Anything else on Fulham before we move on to Leicester?
I got something about just, we talk a lot about recruitment and our plans for recruitment and what we did in the summer and how it didn't work and all that stuff. And it just occurred to me looking down Fulham's lineup. Fulham are a similar sized club to us. They've obviously come out of the Championship, I was looking down their list of players. They've all been signed, or a vast majority have been signed from other Premier League clubs. So there's not the risk there of signing a player who just doesn't adapt, who can't play at the level. If you look at it, the clubs they've signed, I'll just run them through some quickly. Leno, Arsenal; Sessegnon, Spurs; Calvin Bassey came from Rangers via Ajax; Anderson, Crystal Palace; Iwobi, Everton; Berger, Sheffield United in the Premier League; Pereira, Man United; Willian, Chelsea and Arsenal; Jimenez, Wolves; Wilson, Bournemouth; Traore, Wolves; Smith Rowe, Arsenal. So these are all players that's obviously their recruitment model, is to look at players who are squad players for whatever reason, or players that they can get hold of from other Premier League sides, and it takes the element of risk out. Now, I guess you probably end up paying more in wages that way, but you know what these players can do. And none of them are particularly old either. They seem to have signed players who are around the sort of 24, 25 mark. Willian's
the only one who's kind of anywhere near retirement, isn't he?
But that was a weird situation because he went away and come back, didn't he? He went to play in Saudi and then came back. But they, so it's a recruitment model that is working for them, and it flies directly in the face of recruit a promising youngster that you've never heard of from abroad, or recruit players out of academies and hope they develop. It seems like Fulham have almost recognised that it's about the here and now. It's not about 4 and 5 years' time. And I just thought it was an interesting thing to note. And wonder if it's food for thought for a few other clubs, including ourselves, of course. Don't care about other clubs. I wonder if it's food for thought for us. We talk about, do we have players of Premier League experience? Well, yeah, we did, but not good experience.
Yeah, there is that as well. Ugachukwu was player of the week last week, second time this season for him. I'm going to ask you about standout performers from yesterday. Steve, do you want to kick us off?
It was weird because I didn't think anybody was particularly stand out, but nobody had a bad game either. It was one of those where everyone was kind of a sort of 6.5, 7 out of 10. I guess Walker Peters is probably one of the players that kind of rose above a little bit. Maybe I thought Downs had a very good game in centre midfield, and that's 2-3 on the bounce now for him. So that's promising, if not a little bit late. So yeah, those two. Stewart was okay in testing circumstances, given sort of relative expectations. So yeah, I think any one of those. Walker Peters probably the slight sort of emerger from there, I guess.
Anyone else, chaps? I was thinking Walker Peters, obviously standout player for me.
Well, Jack Stevens would be the
obvious
one
with the goal.
Yeah. And to be fair, even just without the goal, I thought he was very good. He's obviously a very resilient. Actually, I spoke to him before the game on Friday, and I just sort of said to him, like, do you think you are quite a resilient player? Because as I do, he comes out of the team for 5 games at a time sometimes, or gets himself banned for 4 games on one occasion. But it does feel like whenever he comes back into the team, they are better. Like, I think over the last 2 years, if you look at the team with Jack Stevens versus without, I think they're better with Jack Stevens than they are without.
It's always the same thing with Jack. He can have 3 or 4 good games, and then his form goes off a cliff. It's always about, he's always lacked the consistency, especially at Premier League level, to do it over a period of 9 or 10 games. So so he has had a good few games. He has had a good 2 or 3 games, and he's got, his aim has got to be to keep it going for the rest of this season. And though it is made slightly easier by the fact that we are playing relatively deep. We are playing a back 5 basically, and I do think that's part of our problem still. I think I thought Leslie Ugachukwu was excellent yesterday again, as well as Flynn Downs, and I just feel that with those two, you could afford to play with the back 4, and you could afford to have another player in midfield perhaps, or get someone up there to support the striker a little bit, but we're not going to do that, not this season anyway. But no, I thought Jack played well. I thought Leslie Ugachukwu played well, and pick your names out of that lot.
I think with Jack as well. I mean, he's clearly going to be here next season because he's got a year left, and obviously nobody's going to buy him. And I don't think he would want to leave, even if they would, because he's that sort of player. And is there a world in which he is the starting centre back next season? I think it could happen. I think it could happen.
Totally.
If Bednarek and Harwood-Bellis both leave,
he's presumably going to be our highest earner next season. I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know about his contract,
Given
but
that
he signed it while he's captain, and
likely to go.
exactly. So there's every chance. But I just think that if Jan and Taylor both leave, people obviously say Ronnie Edwards, and Ronnie Edwards was named Young Player of the Season at QPR, by the way, even though he only signed in January.
He's been there 3 months.
Yeah, he's clearly made a brilliant impact. But unless they bring somebody really good in, I could definitely see Jack starting again next season, and I wouldn't be dead against it.
The only caveat I've got with that is that if Ronnie Edwards is going to be the starting centre, one of the starting centre backs, which we kind of expect, would him and Stevens make a good pairing? That's obviously you've got the experience in youth, so that's one tick in the box. But to me, I haven't really seen enough of Ronnie Edwards, but what I have seen, they both look kind of similar.
Yeah, I don't think Ronnie's the quickest player, is he? He's not like
none of them. No, none of them are particular. None of them do the job that Bednarek does at the moment, which is basically to get stuck into the main striker. So that would be my only concern. I think maybe you need someone who's a bit of a monster in amongst the defence in the Championship.
All right, we'll get those names on social media for the poll. We'll get on to the Leicester game in just a moment as well. Thanks to everyone who joined us at Steamtown last night. Great to see a few of you there. Great to have a chat with a few of you as well. As the season is coming to a close, so is our sponsorship with Steamtown. And so the cans of TSP are slowly running out. We've got a deal running on the remaining cans. You can get a 25% discount on 24 cans of Total Saints Pilsner by quoting the code Total Saints Pod to any of the staff. You have to be in the actual pub, though. The offer is only available in person at the pub. It won't work online. And we're really happy with how the Pilsner has turned out this season. Steamtown has a great list of other beers and ales on the menu as well. So if you've not been in there, it's a really cracking little venue in Eastleigh next to the train station. Can't recommend it enough. So if you want to get 25% off 24 cans of TSP, just go up to any member of the staff and quote Total Saints Podcast, and you'll be able to get your little discount off of those. So I should be doing that on Friday. I'm very much looking forward to it, stocking up for the summer. Our next game at Leicester is probably our last realistic chance of collecting some points this season before the games against Man City, Everton and Arsenal. Stop me if I'm wrong. I mean, Glenn, if ever there was a game that both teams could lose, this is probably going to be it. This is going to be terrible.
I got a lovely solution. We need a point, and they need a goal. So let's have a nice little 1-1 draw, and everybody goes home slightly less miserable than they are at the moment. I mean, talking to I mean, obviously we've accepted our fate for a long time.
Yeah,
but Leicester, my word, they just if you sort of like take a random look at social media and whatnot, they're really not happy with everything. Partly, they all wanted rid of Steve Cooper when he was doing reasonably okay, and it's maybe it's a Ralph Hasenhüttl type of thing where maybe it was time for him to go, but the problem was not getting rid of him. The problem was who they replaced him with, and Van Nistelrooy. It's almost like in typical Dutch fashion. He seems to he's not afraid to sort of like throw shade around, is he? He's basically saying they're not trying. It's all quite amusing because it's a terrible appointment. You've seen it before. Lots of clubs have done it. You appoint a big name with zero experience, and hey ho, look at what happens. I know he's had one year managing in the Dutch league, did he? But it's not really work. I mean, on paper, they still have a relatively decent side. You look at the team that played the other day, and there's some decent players in it, like Ndidi. I know Vardy is, Vardy's old, older now, obviously.
Mavropanos still there. He was good last year.
Mavropanos still there. Buonanotto's not a decent player. So they've still got a good team. So there's obviously something, or a goodish set of players. So there's obviously something going on there. Maybe it's the squad depth thing, as Steve was alluding to earlier on. But Jamie Vardy, of course. I mean, he's been a brilliant player for them, obviously for £1 million. I mean, we'll never forgive him for the Virgil van Dijk tackle. But didn't do us any favours. So we're holding on to that one. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what will happen with Leicester, because they could well get hit with charges when they land in the EFL next year, because obviously there were issues in the season that they got promoted, which I haven't forgotten, but they got away with it somehow. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Probably nothing, because nothing ever seems to happen to clubs who do break the rules. So yeah, I the Jamie Vardy thing with him with him leaving, I don't know whether he's just out of contract or whether he's been pushed or whether he's decided to go himself. I don't sort of like follow it closely enough, but I think there's probably an element of them getting their ducks in the row for for being in the Championship, and they can't afford to carry his wages. But they just seem to be making.
He must be on at least 150 grand a week.
Yeah, I can't even compute that.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see whether he retires or not, because if he retires, he's got to spend more time at home, hasn't he? And I can't imagine he wants. He wants to do that.
There's still quite a big legal bill to pay off there, isn't there? So maybe it's a MLS or Saudi or something like that, just for a year, just to.
He owns a club in America, a lower league club, I think, like Rochester or something like that. So for me, it seems a no-brainer. He'd go to America and just build his own profile there as a player and a personality.
Wrexham was a link, but I mean, as much as Wrexham have kind of thrown money around relative to their level, I mean, signing someone like Vardy just feels like a whole level way out of their league.
Could happen, but I'd be amazed. I don't see that at all.
I mean, we lost to him earlier on in the season, of course, and that was the first game that kick-started our little run of terrible VAR decisions. We had about a month worth, didn't we? Where we just seemed to get terrible VAR decisions for a month, and that if we hadn't have had that, or even if we'd got a couple of them, then we wouldn't be in the 11-point embarrassment zone that we're in at the moment. We still would have gone down, but that Leicester game, we were comfortable at 2-0, and then 2-1, and then the ridiculous incident where the guy was basically hitching a lift, holding onto Tall Paul's shirt. How is Anthony Taylor? How he just looked at that and decided that wasn't a penalty in real time is just absolutely maddening. But there you go. That's in the past now. But it's a game on it's a Saturday that we just have to go there with the mindset of we're going to make it difficult for them to score. And I'm sure we will do that. And I mean, there's not going to be many goals in it, obviously, because it's them against us. but yeah, it is realistically the last chance to get past the Robbie Savage mark. So have to go and take it. But we just basically have to maintain a goal threat the whole game. Can't just sit back and expect them not to score. Because we all know what happens when teams or players with a long run of not scoring play against Southampton.
Yeah. And Vardy needs 2 goals to get to 200, doesn't he? He's 2 goals short.
Really? Then.
Get your money on a brace for Vardy.
Have we said explicitly when Leicester's last goal was at home in the Premier League?
All I've got is that Russell Martin was still in charge at St Mary's, and we all had our Christmas trees up.
Correct.
It was literally
Russell Martin was Saints manager. They've not scored at home in the league. Yeah, that's correct. 2-2 draw, and also it was a 2-2 draw that they scored twice late. They were 2-0 down and scored twice late. But since then, since December the 8th, I think it is, they haven't scored at home in the Premier League. I mean, things have been bad at St Mary's, but fuck me, that is a different level, isn't it? That is a different level. So I mean, let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm really sort of intrigued and tantalised by the prospect of Saturday's game, because it's just going to be something the Premier League has never seen before in terms of two levels of incompetence.
Can we just basically swap the 2 teams out for, I don't know, pick the top 2 teams in that ridiculous National League South title race from yesterday? Drop Truro and Torquay into this game. Let them play it, because it will be a bit more interesting.
Well, I think I've said on the pod last week, so it's a used punchline a couple of weeks ago, but I do believe that whoever loses should be relegated to League One. I think there should be something on the line in this game.
Don't ever worry about recycling jokes on here. Steve, were you kind of alluding to earlier on, like pound for pound at the moment, going into the game, we're actually a slightly better team from people that have watched both sides?
I mean, in terms of longevity, I think I saw it was kind of comparing sort of how Graham Potter had been doing at West Ham. Narrator, badly is the answer. But even so, they've still got many more points over that period than we have. But in that period, since Graham Potter was named West Ham manager, us and Leicester have both got 5 points and Ipswich 4. So, I mean, it kind of shows how bad the three of us have been. But the fact that Ipswich and Leicester obviously had a little bit of a jump start on us getting a clutch of their points sort of through the autumn, whereas we obviously went on that horrible run of not getting anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly. I mean, you look at. I mean, just look at results. I mean, Leicester have barely scored a goal, and they got 2 at Brighton last week, which, I mean, just sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, Brighton were the last team they scored at home against as well, back in December. And yeah, you just look at that, a team that cannot score a goal in 9 successive home games. I mean, whether you win or whether you lose or draw those games kind of doesn't really matter if you've not posed any sort of threat. I mean, the only slight concern I have is that I watched their game against Liverpool last week. I mean, Liverpool were, as you would expect, were comfortably better, and it was one of those games where you always expect Liverpool to score eventually, but it did kind of have that little sort of nervous period as the second half wore on and it was still 0-0, where suddenly a little bit of a switch off in defence with Liverpool, which they've done plenty of times. I mean, we've scored 4 goals against them this season in all competitions, and suddenly Leicester got a little bit of confidence and had a couple of chances, and on another day might have got something out of that game. So it's those sort of things are obviously concerning. The fact that, I mean, we know that they've got decent players that they've got in their squad who have hurt us before on multiple occasions. So yeah, it's ultimately still a game. It's a game that we've got to take very seriously, but it is finally a game that you look at and you take the team's respective form into account. We're in better form than they are. Yeah. The key for us is doing it for a full 90 plus.
Does anyone know if they've been creating chances and just missing them?
In most games, no.
Have they just not been creating chances at all?
Yeah, in most games, not at all. No.
Yeah.
Because as well as the run of 9 at home without scoring, I think they went 8 home and away consecutively without scoring as well. So it's not just a problem at the King Power. It's kind of everywhere for them. Obviously apart from that Brighton game.
You love stats, Glenn. They've had the fewest shots per 90, the fewest shots in total, the fewest shots on target, the fewest XG. Every single attacking stat there at the bottom. Lower than us, yeah, somehow.
My God.
I mean, to be honest, even Ipswich are lower than us on these attacking stats. But yeah, Leicester are right at the bottom of all of them.
What a game it's going to be. I mean,
I should say Mavadidi's injured, by the way. I've just seen on Google. Mavadidi's out for the season. Yeah, so their front four will be Buonanotte, Bobby Decordova-Reid, Bristol City legend, obviously Jamie Vardy, and their number 10, someone called El Canous. I don't know El Canous, but I'm pretty sure I've seen people saying he's actually
he played against us at St Mary's.
He's quite decent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's quite decent.
But of course, Jordan Ayew to come off the bench to score in the 97th minute again.
The lad who absolutely destroyed us, Fatawu, he's out for the whole season as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's been out since like October. I think he did his knee, I think, about a week after they beat us at St Mary's.
Yeah.
They have got a 15-year-old lad on the bench, though.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find his first name. I can't find his first name. Apologies. But
is this the lad that can't wear the shirt sponsor because he's too young?
Exactly, right. Yeah. So he's a 15-year-old guy called, his second name is Monga. He played in the 21s game today, actually. I'm sure we'll get on to briefly. But he played for Leicester 21s against Southampton 21s today. He looks very good. He's 15. He's tiny. His shorts are down to his ankles. I'm not exaggerating. They genuinely are down to his ankles. I think he wears extra small. They're still too long. But he looks like a tidy player, quick. And if he gets on, it's a bit of Premier League history because I'm pretty sure he's one of the youngest Premier League players ever, right? He came on the other day.
Yeah, I think
there's one or two that are younger. But he's played. Yeah, he's come off the bench a couple of times. He came off He made his debut against Newcastle on that Monday Night Football about 3 weeks ago, I think it was. When they were, I mean, the game was done. They were 3-0 down after about 20 minutes in that game. And yeah, the one thing that got the home fans vaguely excited was him coming on for 20 minutes at the end of the game.
I've just got visions of Chris Rigg scoring in that 5-0 when he was about 14 years old. The start of last season, if you remember, the last goal.
Yeah, for Sunderland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I think what we're saying is that we couldn't ask for a better chance to get a point. So
Absolutely.
we'll do some score predictions for El Crapico, as they're calling it. If you're watching live, just put your score predictions in the comments. Steve, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Oh God. Why not? Have it us with the last minute winner? 2-1 win.
So you think they will score a goal at home? Finally,
yeah, because I mean we're not going to be able to prolong that. It's just not what we do. We are the ender of crap runs. So yeah, they will. Unfortunately, they will score. It will be Vardy.
T-shirt.
it will be Vardy.
Okay,
Yeah.
Glenn.
Yeah.
I'll go with what I said right at the start. I'll go with a 1-1 draw, and I think it will suit everybody. I mean, I actually think if we go 1-0 up, we could actually win the game. But I can see us going 1-0 down first, and then getting back into it as they get more nervous as the game goes on. So, I think a 1-1 draw would suit everybody. Seriously, I know I was joking about it at the start, but I think it would suit everybody.
Leicester fans would be quite happy if we go past the Derby record as well. So there's that side of it.
Yeah. So I'll go for a 1-1 draw, but I'm not sure who's going to score for us. maybe another set piece. Now we've cracked that
own goal.
Now we've cracked it. Yeah, Alfie.
I'll go for the only free result, which is obviously a 1-0 win for Saints. But I do genuinely, I might put some money on Vardy scoring because I do think that's nailed on.
Money for 2 goals, I reckon. All right, we shall see. You mentioned that Leicester game in the under-21s, Alfie. You were there for this one today. So this was the playoff round of 16, isn't it? That's at Mary's today. So it was, well, we were expecting a good game, and there were plenty of goals, but I don't know if you were expecting it to go to extra time this afternoon.
Honestly, no. So yeah, you're right. So it's the Premier League 2 playoff first knockout round of 16. So they're into the last 8 now, and I think it was 3-0 after about 60 minutes, and then still 3-0 at 80 minutes. I was almost sort of half. I wasn't working today. George was covering it. I was watching from the stands. I was half tempted to think, well, I'll leave and just sort of get home. And then Leicester scored a brilliant free kick. Actually, Leicester scored a brilliant free kick in the 80th minute, and then about 2 minutes later they scored a penalty. And then they scored again from the right-hand side of the pitch about 2 minutes later after that. So within 5 minutes, they'd scored 3 goals. It's gone from 3-0 to 3-all. And you obviously at that point, you're a bit worried. But Saints had a lot of
Southampton way.
Exactly. And you do think, okay, this could go badly wrong. But I think right at the start of extra time, Joachim K. Sander scored a header. And then from there, it was all Saints, really. I think both sets of lads are absolutely knackered. And then Cam Bragg scored a penalty to make it 5-3 right before the end as well. So Will Merry, Jay Robinson, and Princewell Ayabataman, apologies if I butchered his name, with the goals. So it's really good for the 21s. To be in the last 8 of that competition, they've got they've got a Premier League Cup semi-final on Thursday evening at St Mary's as well. If he wants to get down there, it was a good game. They played some entertaining stuff.
There'll be a few of them that'll be eyeing up some starts in the league next season for sure, which is good. The women's team also won today. They beat Sheffield United 3-2 earlier today. I think that was the first win of the year, actually. Maybe their first victory in the Championship since November. That's right. And am I right in saying Pompey stayed up too? So there'll be 4 South Coast derbies next season. Is that right?
Yeah, Pompey have sorted themselves out in that division by the looks of it over basically since the new year, really. Once they got the first couple of points, I think they probably made some sensible signings, including obviously Emma Thompson on loan from us, which still baffles me, that one. But she scored today, actually. But they beat Blackburn 4-0, who will now finish second bottom above Sheffield United. But yeah, I mean, ultimately we got the win, but yeah, conceding 2 to the team that are going to finish in single figures for points is. I mean, they got the win, which I guess is the most important thing. But running it as close as they did, not ideal. But ultimately, at least half that 11 probably won't be here next season because they're either not ours or they're out of contract and they'll find other opportunities.
Yeah,
going to be going to be a summer of change for men and women.
All
I
around,
think.
yeah, all around. Anything else before we finish? Any other business, chaps?
No, think I'm done. No, I mean, I'd just like to say on the women's team, they, the bottom line is that they won the game. If you haven't won for 10, 11 games, it doesn't really matter how many you win by. But yeah, I was keeping track of the game today, and it was, they scored early in it, but it was a little bit, when Sheffield United equalised, you think, oh, here we go again.
Here we go, yeah.
But I thought we might have thrown it in an attempt to get them above Portsmouth in the league, but yeah, not the case, and it wouldn't have made any difference anyway. But there you go. No, so basically, well done for winning a game. It's just it's nice that one of our teams has had a win in recent memory.
There were a couple of bits of manager rumours, wasn't there? From I think one of them was Sky Sports.
Was this the 30-year-old guy from the MLS?
Yeah. So the Minnesota manager Eric Ramsey was a Man United coach under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ten Hag, as the latest to have been linked.
Good recommendation.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he is sort of the Kieran McKenna school of thought. I think he was assistant alongside Kieran McKenna, even back in the Loughborough University team like many years ago. But I think what it shows is clearly there is a profile that Saints are going for, isn't it? And that's a young manager, because it's been Danny Roll, 35, Will Steele, 32, and now Eric Ramsey, 30 or whatever he is, 33. Who's been linked, I suppose. Obviously, there'll be loads that we don't know about, but I thought that was interesting.
Rules me out.
Yeah.
I'm just resigned to the fact it's going to be another manager younger than me, which is just going to be a thing now. Isn't it? It's been hit and miss, and now it's consistently younger than me. So
I've seen Danny Roll has been speaking as well. He's told Sheffield Wednesday his decision. Apparently, I think it's pretty obvious what that decision is.
But he didn't say what it was, did he? He just said,
but he's not going to be there, is he? That's the decision, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, you don't come out and give that press conference with those exact words without basically having told them, yeah, I'm off, lads.
Yeah.
Just another thing, Alfie. I mean, you said there that it shows the profile of manager we're looking at. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's just agents getting busy?
Yeah, that's true.
Because Southampton in the Championship is a brilliant job for someone, because you're going to have a relatively good squad of players for that division. And obviously the expectation is going to be there to get promoted, and whoever takes it on has got that to live with, like Russell Martin had to. But yeah, I try not to busy myself with I know it's your job, but I try not to busy myself with these rumors, because I just think it's just so many of them. I mean, I honestly cannot see them giving the job to an untried 30-year-old who's managed in the States. I just can't see it. So I sort of read the headline in these rumors and just put a cross against it and put it in the bin and don't worry about it. So I just think we are in the silly season.
People are desperate for stories, obviously, because there's nobody's really interested in this club right now. So if you have to write something, it has to be interesting. And also, I think there is the element of when Johannes Spoor spoke to us about the manager a couple of weeks ago, and we're hoping to speak to Johannes again in the next week or two, because he's sort of made a couple of appointments to his own team in terms of there's a number 2 for him who's come in, and like an assistant director or whatever, I don't know, who's come in and stuff like that. I was hoping to get a bit more background on that. But he did say to us that one of the things that he likes in his profession is developing people who are younger than him to go on and be better than him. That's with head coaches and all sorts of staff. So it did suggest to me that he will go for one of those sort of developmental managers who's a bit younger. But yeah, obviously things can change. It comes down to who's available. So I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I think that because he said that, it's very easy then for a publication to go, oh, well, this is a young, developing, up and coming manager, so he must be linked to Saints, and to chuck his name out there. So yeah, I agree. I wouldn't worry too much about it until it's done.
Although it's slightly better than Steven Gerrard being linked.
It can't be Steven Gerrard, can it?
Right. Thank you, guys. You can follow Total Saints Podcast on all the social media platforms. Just have a search for @Total Saints Pod. Head to the website as well. That's where you can find out more about the team. You can also follow the link on there to the merch store, and you can grab yourself some bits. It's getting updated all the time. Various pieces on there for you. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also find us on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contribution. You have to to head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. And each of the tiers comes with some different perks. And there's weekly shout outs for patrons in the Francis Benali and the Mick Shannon tier. So thank you to Dave Mountain, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, and James Kibbe. They're all residing in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Colt Baker, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Nick Reed, Phil Horstrup, Matt Hall, Mark Littlewood, Mike Etheridge, James Bobin, John Bevan, and Liam Dempsey, who are in our Mick Shannon tier. Thank you to Paul Castle Associates and also to Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you to Steve, to Alfie, and to Glenn. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you again next week.